Welcome to an example on how to add two fractions with unlike denominators. The main thing to remember is that when we add or subtract fractions, we must obtain a common denominator. The reason we must obtain a common denominator is so that we add or subtract parts or pieces of the same size. So here we have 2/15 plus 1/24. The first thing to recognize is that we do not have a common denominator, and therefore we cannot add the fractions in this form. If we're able to determine the smallest common denominator, that's called the least common denominator, which would be the least common multiple of 15 and 24, which is also the smallest number that's divisible by 15 and 24. Remember, we can always find a common denominator by multiplying the two denominators together, but because in this case 15 times 24 is so large, let's work on determining the least common denominator. So we could list multiples of 15 and multiples of 24 and recognize the least common multiple is 120, but for this example, let's build the least common denominator by using the prime factorization of the two denominators. So let's first find the prime factorization of 15 and 24. 15 is equal to 3 times 5, both are prime. For 24, let's begin with 4 times 6. 4 is equal to 2 times 2, both are prime. And 6 is equal to 2 times 3, both are prime. So let's write 2/15 as 2 over 3 times 5. And let's write 1/24 as 1 over 3 factors of 2 and a factor of 3. Once we have the prime factors of the denominators, we can build a common denominator by making sure that both denominators contain the same prime factors. So notice this first fraction is missing 3 factors of 2 that this denominator has. So to create an equivalent fraction that has 3 factors of 2 in the denominator, we need to multiply the numerator and denominator by 3 factors of 2. Notice now this denominator contains all the prime factors that the second fraction contains. And now moving to the second fraction, notice how this denominator is missing a factor of 5. So to create an equivalent fraction, we multiply the numerator and denominator by 5. Notice now both denominators contain the same prime factors, and therefore we have a common denominator. And not only do we have a common denominator, the product of the primes would give us the least common denominator. So now let's go ahead and find these products to determine the equivalent fractions. First fraction, the numerator is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 16. Denominator is going to be 15 times 2, which is 30, times 2, which is 60, times 2, which equals 120. So 2/15 is equivalent to 16 120ths plus, second fraction has a numerator of 5. The denominator is also going to be 120 because these prime factors are the same as these prime factors. So 5 120ths is equivalent to 1/24. And now that we have a common denominator, we can add the two fractions. The denominator stays 120, and the numerator is 16 plus 5, which equals 21. So the sum is 21 120ths, but because 21 and 120 share a common factor of 3, this does simplify. There's a couple of ways to show the simplifying. If we want to see the common factor of 3, we can write 21 as 3 times 7, and we can write 120 as 3 times 40. 3 over 3, or 3 divided by 3, simplifies to 1, giving us a sum of 7/40ths. Of course, we can also show the simplifying a different way. If we have 21 120ths and recognize we have a common factor of 3, we can simplify by dividing the numerator by 3 and dividing the denominator by 3. 21 divided by 3 is 7. 120 divided by 3 is 40. I hope you found this helpful.